has some comments. Donovan, he used to work for the National School of Government.
A very, very long time ago.
And the Department of Public Service.
I was going to introduce myself as one of the few remaining ANC supporters and members, possibly in the planet. But you've decided to give me other titles. It's very similar to what Kaya has raised, in a sense, you know, that when I think of consultants, I put it under the rubric of outsourcing. And the idea that the state or government, to be more particular, mustn't really be in anything operational, must just create this environment. And therefore should not build houses, but should contract companies to build houses. And I recall when I first got to Johannesburg that, and I worked for the South African National Civic Organization, we were being helped by this management consulting company called Booz Allen. And the then city manager of Johannesburg, when we said Booz Allen, he said, "Oh, the CIA guys." And when we went like, "Whoa, hold on, what do you mean the CIA guys?" And then I saw Booz Allen sponsoring a golf tournament that Tiger Woods is in, and I said, these guys are big. And then when I read The Economic Hitman, and then thereafter Athol Williams' Deep Collusion, where he couldn't make the link between working for Bain and working for a CIA front. Working for Deloitte, which were the consultants to how the South African process in parliament should take place in the new South Africa, as well as the Kremlin after the Soviet Union in Russia. That all these companies that we outsource and call them consultants are really companies embedded in their own collusion, in their own state in the West, between the elite of capital with the elite of the political elite class. And the consultants play that role. And in our country, and I'm sure many here, the students, as they try to find jobs, and not all can become lecturers, will also have to become consultants in Deloitte and Touche and wherever else, Ernst & Young and PwC and Booz Allen in another form, Bain in another form, etc. And they wouldn't like to think they overthrew Iran or Guatemala. But in essence, I still go back to this, but who hires the consultants? I mean, like, the consultants don't just come and force themselves. And so, I think the NSG and WITS PNDM have got a lot to answer for. Yeah, okay, WITS School of Governance, they have a lot to answer for, because if you go with just NSG certificates and apply for a job in the NSG won't hire you. They will hire people with a certificate from WITS. And then if you look at what is being taught in WITS and what is a public servant, will be the theory of public service, of what's public administration, but not really how to be a public servant. It fits in this idea, and the whole process in government is how to do submissions and how to do tenders, which is outsourcing. Government is set up to outsource. So consultants are just on the other side of it, because there's the markets there. And it's quite worrying, because if you look at it, and why? And you'll have how many people in government getting bursaries from government to study MBAs, because you can't go higher up in government if you don't have no idea how to create public servants. And the Duma raised the issue of ESCOM, Transnet, etc. All of that is part of, should be government, but it's taken away from that.
Yeah.
And this one of the biggest things of state capture was the outsourcing of the social welfare grants. And what happened was that government set up an agency. So the Department of Social Welfare set up an agency so that they could give social grants. And the agency put up, which was the same size, if not bigger than the actual Department of Social Welfare, set up a tender so that somebody else can pay the grants. So that's what they were set up for. They were going to outsource. And when APSA, which is basically Barclays, was supposed to get the tender, when they weren't getting the tender, because the minister was not very well liked, then is Batabile Dlamini, who I think just yesterday, she was told she has to pay back legal fees. She said, no, but hold on, why are we outsourcing this? Why are we using consultants to tell us that APSA must do this? Let's set up work streams, 5 work streams. But she wasn't very popular.
No, I get it, Jonathan. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
She was not very popular. Yeah. So the thing is this, is that in our government,
we keep giving these people.
And in our media and in our schools, we essentially push this position that you need bright people like consultants to tell you what to do. And if they don't tell you how to do it, it's not good enough.
Thanks.
That's why you need these other, no, I'm sorry, Duma. That's why you need these other things. So the con is not just the consultants. The con is the schools, as you were saying it, the media, and the private sector. Yeah. It's a nice show game.
That's why in the book we purposefully actually start out with all those points. We say this will never be solved if we don't rethink what government is for, what public purpose is for, what the civil service is for. And as long as at best it's about fixing market failures. And we have a whole chapter on, are you listening? Just kidding. Yeah. Exactly the words you said, steering but not rowing. Yeah. Then if you're not rowing, if you're not doing, you won't even know how to steer. And if you do steer all of a sudden, what are you steering for? So the reason I like to talk about the moon landing is because there was a clear goal. And when government worked with the private sector came in to help government on a goal set by the public sector. What happened in the UK with the PFI schemes, the private financing initiatives, which were all consulted in as well. It was not just outsourcing to the private sector, but the very contracts themselves were consulted by consultants. There was, public and private working together, public-private partnership, but on what? On eventually a healthcare system that was basically, even if it wasn't privatized, it was still funded by the public sector, but defined by the private sector. So, that kind of steering, not rowing, kind of ideology, market fixing, not market shaping, unless we really start with that. And that's why, thank you for making the point as you made it, this problem will not go away. We need to rethink what is the civil service for, what is the state for, and then hold the state accountable to that. It's not about glorifying the state. The state will have a much harder time if we get good at doing that in terms of actually proving it's doing good for people. I think we had a question.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mohammed Lokat. I'm